Hello again, Yellow Jacket fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Hell of a Podcast with Athletic Director Ryan Alpert. I'm Andy Demetra, our monthly check-in with your Director of Athletics for the Yellow Jackets. Ryan, great to visit with you again. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Andy?
Doing well. You know, May is kind of the convergence of three different seasons in college athletics. You have the postseason for some, you have recruiting season for others, and you have graduation season for all of them. And let's start there because you can probably see behind us the graduation stage getting erected in the south end zone of 𝗛𝗡𝗟𝗏 Stadium, a Hyundai Field. Graduation here on the flat. It's a time of great pride for not only the athletic department, but you as the athletic director to see so many of your student athletes walking across that graduation stage. Give us some of the stats on the newest group of Georgia Tech grads here from athletics.
Yeah, you know, when you come and you choose Georgia Tech, and I was able to talk to our, you know, we had 63 student athletes graduating, 53 with their bachelor's, 10 with their master's, and had an opportunity to you know, address that group. And when you think about these student athletes, some have been here for their 4 or 5 years of eligibility, some have transferred in and are getting their degree. But these students, no matter where they chose coming out of high school, were impacted by COVID. A lot of those athletes didn't have the same traditional experience of whether it was through their recruitment process or going through online tours. But our young men and young women that come to Georgia Tech, we always talk about how do we get them a diploma in one hand and a championship ring in the other hand. But you know, our 63 students that graduated, they're going to go on to have exceptional careers, hopefully professionally, and if they want to play in a sport professionally, but they're prepared for life, and I think that's what we are always going to prioritize, our academic mission here at Georgia Tech, but really had an opportunity to visit with those young men and women to talk about their shared experiences here, the bond that they have, the culture that we have within our athletics program, but particularly on the academic side. 13 of our 15 teams had a perfect APR score of 1,000, and then 14 of our 15 teams, you know, they hit or increase their APR score year over year. So no matter what at Georgia Tech, we're always going to prioritize academics, and this group and cohort of student athletes are setting the mark, both competitively and academically, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah, great news this week about the APR rates. Sometimes just with how college sports has evolved, it can very easily lead to some cynicism. At the end of the day, though, it's still about getting that education. And this month kind of reinforces what college sports is all about, why so many people, yourself included, got into college sports in the first place.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like my grandfather, my father are both in higher education, on professors and provosts in their own respect and regards. And so to see our young people choose Georgia Tech for the right reasons and to come here, the academic regimen, we don't have any online programming. Mm-hmm. Our student athletes are in class. They have to balance workouts to practice, to go into class, exams. Even just the other night, we had a weather situation going on in baseball. One of our athletes had an exam that ended right up at 3 o'clock, but so we moved the game to 5 o'clock to ensure that he'd have the opportunity to still, you know, prepare his body and get ready for the game. But it wasn't like we were going to be able to reschedule that exam. We're always going to prioritize academics here at Georgia Tech, and so May is a really important month as we get to honor those graduates. Mm-hmm. And it also shows the pathway to our other 300 athletes that here, if you continue to do what you're supposed to do academically and athletically, you too can get a degree from Georgia Tech. Yeah,
provides a lot of inspirations for those who are still taking their undergraduate courses. Did you ever take one of your dad's courses when you were an undergrad?
You know, South Carolina is not the same academic school, but they do have some principles. I was not able to take a class from him, even though at times I needed some credits. But no, I did use his office sometimes as a study space.
Okay.
And it was always neat to walk by and say hello to him on days when I was on campus and when he was there as well.
It probably worked out for the best because I'm guessing he might have graded you on a slightly harder curve than some of his other pupils.
Yeah, he can be my biggest critic at times.
I can understand that, as one would expect. I'll tell you what, the new GT statue at the corner of Techwood and 𝗛𝗡𝗟𝗏 becoming a very popular graduation photo setting here over the last week and a half, anchoring the Fanning Center, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But seeing a lot of caps and gowns, a lot of smiling faces alongside that GT logo there at the corner. So an added benefit, I suppose, of the beautification of that corner for the Fanning Center.
Yeah, no, and the Fanning Center it's opening here in less than 30 days. Excited to welcome our athletes, our coaches, our sports medicine staff, our analytics team into it. But you're right. I think I saw a lot of photos happening right in front of the president's office with, the big tech logo there. But now I think the GT right in front of the Fanning Center, I've seen students hanging on it, putting their caps on it. So it's incredible to be able to bring this facility online, but then also for it to be there for the entire student body to utilize different spaces there.
Yeah, very neat. Of course, graduation, just the latest big event at 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗟𝗨𝗩𝗪 Stadium, Hyundai Field, coming off 2 sold-out shows for the Bruno Mars tour. Just a great revenue driver for Georgia Tech athletics. Can you kind of crystallize for everybody just how beneficial those 2 concerts were for Georgia Tech athletics?
Yeah, we've always talked about how do we create a second football season. And so what I mean by that is, when you have 6 or 7 home football games, how can we look to kind of May, June, and July as campuses, students are departing after graduation. Obviously, parking is at a high demand here in Midtown. And so we had the 2-night show with Bruno Mars Saturday and Sunday. We welcomed over, nearly 80,000 people to 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗏𝗧 into Midtown. So certainly a great revenue generator for the athletic department as we continue to generate as much revenue as we can to invest back into our programs. But also it's about how are we growing our fan base? How are we impacting the community? This is not a fully baked out statistic, but I would bet 80% of those fans that visited 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗏𝗧 are not your traditional season ticket holders. They're not your traditional fans that are coming in. So how can we show them what an incredible experience it was? And so right after the show, we sent an email out to everybody who had bought a premium seat, and then ultimately we're going to send an email to everybody who bought a ticket about would you be interested in Georgia Tech season tickets in football, basketball, baseball. So it's a way for us to continue to show off our wonderful amenities here that we have, the experience, the skyline, how easy it was to get to campus, how close it is to wherever you're living in the regional area, and then ultimately try and convert them into being fans of Georgia Tech athletics.
Yeah, they were treated to a phenomenal atmosphere. Just the skyline and the views and the vibes were top-notch for Bruno Mars. Speaking of creating that second football season, how actively is the Athletic Association now pursuing more concert acts in the years to come?
Oh, no, we're going to be extremely aggressive in that space. So we obviously have the 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗏𝗧 renovation coming on right after this football season. So we will be offline for shows next year to ensure that the stadium amenities and upgrades are done prior to the 27 football season. But as soon as we get that season done, but touring acts are already starting to look out to 27 and 28. And so being able to have Chris Brown this fall and then being able to have these 2 Bruno shows, it shows the promoters, it shows the acts, what a profitable experience it is for them, what a great place it is to visit. So we are already aggressively looking at how can we have, again, 4 or 5 shows each off season that we have moving forward. And again, it's a great way to display our campus, welcoming people to Midtown Atlanta. It's a great way to put Georgia Tech on display. And then certainly the revenue piece is a critical component as we look to grow our resources.
For the regular listeners of the Hell of a Podcast, we've been chronicling Ryan's continued education and appreciation of the songbook of Bruno Mars. So now that you are at one of those shows, can we finally lock in like Ryan's favorite Bruno Mars song on the set list?
Well, I've always, when we're in our fan experience meeting, the term I use is we want more boom, more bang going on. And so it was, it's not welcome to heaven, it's
locked out of heaven.
Locked out of heaven. And there were, Bruno had a laser show, he had confetti flying, there was more lights and fireworks that I'd like to see out of our entrance or when we score a touchdown in 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗏𝗧. So he had a lot of boom, a lot of bang, and I thought when you think about Bruno's talent, how he dances, the entertainment value, his music, I mean, he puts on an incredible show. And then when they added all of those theater metrics in there. It was. I thought the show from start to finish was incredible. I thought Bruno's talent, I had not seen him in person, was awesome. But to see that in 𝗛𝗡𝗏 again with the skyline, the setting, it was two amazing nights.
You get some ideas now
for
game presentation at 𝗛𝗏𝗏.
We sent some videos to the fan experience team and said, how can we replicate this in 𝗛𝗏𝗏 on game day?
That's fantastic. Of course, those were not the only sellouts, nor have they been the only sellouts, and far from it this past year. I know you're very proud of the sellout number across all sports at Georgia Tech, and there was a release put out about that a couple of weeks ago, and just so many people work so hard to create those sellouts. It doesn't just happen. It has to be earned, and I know you want to take some time here on the podcast to really salute the people behind the scenes who have helped make those sellouts across the campus possible.
Yeah, so we have a kind of our external revenue generation team that's enhanced by our facilities operations. So we've hit 46. Our goal was to have 50 sellouts this year on campus. Mm-hmm. And so we've had 46 sellouts thus far. We have some baseball games obviously coming up here. We've got the Duke series at home this coming weekend. And then we look to host super regionals and regionals in their own respective way. And so as we continue to build out the fan base, just like we're all driven through competition, our coaches want to win. We set a goal of 50. We thought it was really aspirational. We want to blow that out of the water, and how can we make that 60 or 75 next year? But again, it takes us creating an experience, communicating with the fan base, also having the fan base come out, buy tickets, enjoy their experience where they want to return back. And so I'm grateful for our facilities, our operations team, our marketing team, our campus partners that are helping us host these events, our game operations folks that are making a great game day experience so people want to come back. And so we want to hit 50, but then how can we blow by that this year and set a new goal for next year?
Well, you have an opportunity for 3 more sellouts this weekend when Georgia Tech baseball at McNeese Baseball Park welcomes in Duke. Of course, at 39-8, it's time for the best 47-game record in program history. It's best since 1993. They're on the verge of back-to-back 40-win seasons for the first time in 15 years, positioning themselves very well for not only a top 16 seed, which would ensure them hosting a regional, but a top 8 national seed, which would ensure them not only hosting a regional and a super regional. I think fans want to know, just sort of looking ahead for those season ticket holders, what can they expect about communication regarding tickets for the postseason?
Yeah, so postseason will be, so we should get emails out this week. So season ticket holders for this season will have the first right to the same number of tickets, same location for the most part. Sometimes in the NCAA regionals, they have to expand the student-athlete footprint just because you're hosting 4 teams on your campus. But so season ticket holders will have the first right at their tickets for regionals. And then ultimately, when we advance to super regionals, as long as we're a top 8 seed, we'd automatically get, they would automatically get purchased in for the super regional as well. We're talking about those that want to buy season tickets for next year, because obviously we've had a lot of fans. We have our season ticket holders, but then we have a lot of folks that bought single game tickets for this year. So folks that are willing to step up and buy season tickets for next year would also have an opportunity after the season ticket holders for this year to get access to regionals and super regional tickets first. So again, trying to grow the fan base, trying to get people to commit to support the program. Obviously what Coach Ramsey and the baseball program at 39-8 have done an incredible job this year. I mean, the tenacity, the fight, our offensive production, but I think our defensive performance, our pitching has been elite this year. So I've been lucky enough to be a part of a lot of successful baseball teams. This, in my opinion, is the most talented, most connected, well-coached team I've been a part of. And obviously, you got to get hot at the right time. Mm-hmm. You've been a part of a couple of those. It's about playing well late into May and into June. But this team seems to be coming together always as soon as somebody needs to step up. It's like 6 or 7 guys step up and support one another. So excited to see how they can come together. But again, yeah, as you mentioned, you got to be a top 16 seed in the national seeds to be able to host regionals, and then the top 8 national seeds go on if you advance from regionals into super regionals. and this weekend starts. I think Coach Ramsey mentioned in his press conference this weekend, the Duke series really starts our postseason play. We want to create a home field advantage. We talked about the Florida State series early in the year and how incredible the atmosphere was with our fans banging on the bleachers and really, again, just like we have in football, creating a home field advantage. And that's what really gives your team the juice to be able to go out there, and if they get into a tight moment, how can they rally together? And so that's on our team to be able to create that, but it's on our fans to show up and show out and really create that home field advantage for our baseball program.
Georgia Tech has a chance to clinch the ACC regular season as soon as Sunday, depending on how things shake out. But also, as you look ahead to the ACC tournament in Charlotte beginning May 19th, single elimination, but just one win this weekend or one Miami loss, and Georgia Tech will clinch a double bye into the quarterfinals, which means they would not start playing the ACC tournament until Thursday, May 21st, or Friday, May 22nd, and that all leads, of course, to the NCAA selection show on Memorial Day. And again, we've talked about the benefits and virtues of being a top 8 national seed. When you are able to host a regional in baseball, obviously it's a terrific acknowledgement of your regular season success. But those are NCAA-administered events, Ryan, and so you can't pull all the levers you normally would when it comes to generating revenue hosting those baseball games. But I know you and your staff are being very proactive already in trying to create opportunities to drive more revenue for a potential regional round. Can you shed some light on that and what you guys are doing in anticipation of hosting a regional so that this can still be something of benefit to the Athletic Association?
Yeah, so when you host an NCAA postseason event, you can't always play the music or do the things that you would traditionally do for a home game. So that's why we need our fans to buy out the allotment, buy all the tickets, so we can create that home field advantage and sell out and hit our 50 goal and surpass that through regionals and super regionals. But yeah, we want to continue to enhance the fan experience. So once we sell out, we don't want to just stop there. We want to create unique moments on our campus. So whether that's opening up a fan headquarters for those that can't get tickets and be able to stream the game somewhere. Again, it's about bringing people to campus to tailgate, have fun, enjoy that atmosphere, ultimately to create a home field advantage in the stadium. But once we sell out there, again, we want to have a fan headquarters where people are coming together, they're celebrating the success, they're enjoying each other's company. And so more information to come on where our fan headquarters will be. We're going to have merchandise, apparel. What does help us drive revenue is through concessions and beer sales and nachos and hot dogs. So again, we want to have a great atmosphere. I walk around campus before games and you can see the fraternities, the student groups, and obviously with graduation happening, you'll have some students start transitioning out. So again, how can we fill those stands and those seats with Georgia Tech fans that can, again, create that home field advantage we're looking for?
So being proactive, driving revenue outside the stadium where you don't have access to all the revenue drivers inside the stadium that you ordinarily would if you were hosting the event yourself as opposed to something run through the NCAA.
Yeah, and look, we're looking at it twofold. We're always looking to drive revenue, but how do we enhance fan experience? And so instead of sitting at your house and watching the game with some friends or going to a local restaurant or bar, how can we bring those fans that maybe don't have tickets? How can we create that experience on campus, which certainly drives the energy up and also revenue opportunities. But if we can create an incredible atmosphere, that's our number one goal, to help support our team and help let them know that we're all here behind them as they pursue regional championship, super regional championship, and then ultimately on to Omaha, hopefully.
Baseball, one of several teams gearing up for the postseason. Golf learns its NCAA regional destination today. It'll be the 28th straight regional appearance under Bruce Hempler. Boy, you'd love to see him off into retirement with one last great ride in the postseason. Yeah,
I was actually walking over here today for our podcast, and Bruce, who has more experience in playing in the postseason than anybody in the country, he already had it mapped out of where he thinks that we could end up and the courses, and you love to see it. And yeah, we'd love to send Bruce out with a national championship, and ultimately that's our ultimate goal this year. And I think they're playing well at the right time. We've got some great pieces. Played really well in ACC championship play, but ultimately they're actually going out for a practice round. You can play up until the regional, so they're going out for a practice round today, and then find out where they're headed, and want to support those young young men in pursuing a championship and send Bruce out the right way.
Yeah, Bruce knows how to get it done in the postseason. And also, softball begins its ACC tournament play on Wednesday in Charlottesville. They take on Notre Dame. They're on that NCAA tournament bubble. Good run at the ACC tournament might ensure another NCAA tournament appearance for Eileen and the team.
Yeah, I think, they match up against Notre Dame. Winner of that game gets to play Florida State, which is, the #1 overall seed in the ACC. So I think, you can beat Notre Dame and then match up against a great RPI team in Florida State, which gives you the opportunity. I think if we can win, 2 games, maybe 1, but certainly 2, puts us in position, I think, to be a team and getting into postseason. And look, we've been right there close. We played Florida State into extras on Sunday just a couple days ago. We've been on just on the cusp, and I think we're right about to break through. Our pitching's been solid, our hitting's been solid. So excited to see them have the opportunity to go to the ACC championships and hopefully punch their ticket to the NCAAs.
And ACC track and field championships begin next week in Louisville. A lot of school records on the distance side being taken down this spring. That's been exciting to watch. So the Yellow Jackets will head up to Louisville for the ACC track and field championships and start their postseason. And also, it'll be the start this month of the Fanning Center era at Georgia Tech. I know we've talked about it on several editions of the Hell of a Podcast, but the dedication and ribbon cutting is now just a couple of weeks away, Thursday, May 14th, when we officially open up the doors to the Thomas A. Fanning Student Athlete Performance Center. This has been a vision, right, almost a decade in the making. And once those doors open and you step inside that 100,000 square foot facility, what will be some of the things that puts Georgia Tech on the front edge of the curve when it comes to its student athletes and ensuring that they get the best care and the best resources for their success under the Fanning Center?
Yeah, I mean, the Fanning Center is, there's a lot of people that deserve a lot of credit, not only the donors for helping support it, but there's been several administrations and folks that have poured their, time, effort, and energy into the design of it, into the implementation of it. I think of the Fanning Center in many ways as a microcosm of what Georgia Tech is, right? Georgia Tech is a crossroads of technology, engineering, AI, all the things that are helping the world evolve, and what Georgia Tech students are doing to help continue to make a dynamic workplace, to make a dynamic, into the future of AI, the future of engineering. All of those things is what makes Georgia Tech special in a lot of ways. And so when you talk about the Fanning Center and what it's going to do for our athletic programs, it's really the crossroads of elite strength and conditioning, sports medicine, analytics, all sports performance. And so all of the crossroads that help athletes become the best student athlete they can be possible. Ultimately, when we bring a young man or young woman to Georgia Tech, we talk to them about how we're going to maximize their potential. And the Fanning Center is 100,000 square feet, is about pouring into our athletes, making them the best athlete they can be in their respective sport. So we think about our partnership with Emory and the health care that it's going to provide. Sometimes, it's how do we maximize, or sometimes it's minimizing when you create an injury, right? It's high level athletics, and so the sports performance area that we're going to be able to minimize your time off the field. If you can have your starters back on the field in a safe and healthy manner in the quickest time possible, it's only going to help you perform better at the highest level. We're going from, I think we have 16 racks to 30 racks in our new sports performance center and our new weight room, and all the technology and all the things that we're going to be able to enhance for our athletes to get stronger, faster, and then ultimately our new nutrition center. Again, it's critically important to me. I know some schools have decided to, football is over here and basketball is, eating over there. Our nutrition center is going to be for all student athletes to come into the building, and that's where they share their when you have a reunion and student athletes start talking about, who they were friends with or who they're still friends with. A lot of those connections and relationships start with, when you can break bread with somebody, when the tennis player is eating with the football player. That's how lifelong relationships. And so ultimately this building is about pouring into our athletes when it comes to sports performance, sports nutrition, the health and wellness of our student athletes, but it's also about them coming and having a place that they call home. I've talked a lot about it, even though our weight room and a lot of our student facilities are over in Wardlaw on the south side of the stadium, just being on the north side of the stadium, really connected into where all of our other facilities are, whether it's our track and field, our softball, baseball, the interconnection and the location. I've heard a report, I was in a meeting the other day, if you don't put a cafeteria in the bottom of a dorm, students won't eat. Not student athletes, but students. And so just the proximity, the technology that's going to be in this building. Look, it's the new era of college sports, so it isn't always now about the shiny facilities, but every thought process, every square foot of utilized space in this building is about pouring into our athletes and giving them the resources they need to be successful. So I can't wait to open the doors for the grand opening, but I really can't wait till August until we welcome all of our athletes back. They can see it, they can feel it, they can be a part of it. We've taken our head coaches through, we've taken some small groups of student athletes through. And I mean, I think I mentioned one of our former athletes came into town and I walked her through it and she started crying. Just about, how the athletics realm has changed, and I think it really shows the commitment to being Power 4 athletics, to being at the top echelon of college athletics, whatever that means in the next 5, 10, 15 years. This building, how we're investing in our coaches, how we're helping them compete, the renovations we're going to do at 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗏𝗧, the continued investment we're making in athletics. The Fanning Center is just one, but it's a big piece of the puzzle and shows our commitment to being at the highest end of college athletics.
You'd mentioned the partnership with Emory Healthcare, and that's a really groundbreaking partnership that can set Georgia Tech apart. Can you elaborate a little more on what is going into that and sort of into that new era of the Fanning Center?
Yeah, so Emory has partnered with the Falcons. It's a, Spark Training Center is what the Falcons have. Again, it's how can you put the best sports medicine team around your athletes. Again, it's about, how are their shoulder movements happening? How are their lower extremity movements happening? Again, you're trying to maximize the potential of every athlete. So we have force plate technology. There's more cameras in there than a Hollywood movie shoot. But really, it's about how can you utilize technology to enhance the athlete's production, performance. And so Emory is world leading in what they're doing. They're training our medical staff. They're going to dedicate some of their resources to be here. And so, again, it's about how can we be on that leading edge. Technology is informing and transforming our entire lives today. And so it isn't just about going and benching and squatting. It's about how can you utilize technology to improve your performance. And Emory's on the cutting edge of that. And again, I'm not going to say we're the only school in the country to have a partnership like this, but I do think we're one of a few that have the resources. So when we talk about what does Atlanta and what does the marketplace provide us, it provides us resources that the elite pro teams in town are utilizing. I think the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball have always been, whether it's 5, 6, 7 years ahead of college sports when it comes to sports performance, revenue generation. And so how can we lean into those things? And the partnership with Emory is going to put us again on the cutting edge side of performance analytics and performance measurables. And that ultimately, I think, is a recruiting tool for us, is if you come to Georgia Tech, we're going to be able to make you the highest performing athlete at your potential possible.
It's great to hear about all the new weight racks as somebody who clearly knows his way around a weight room. The old weight room facilities on the south side of Wardlaw, I know a lot of student athletes across many years have poured a lot of their sweat into that space. What will become of that now with the weight room moving over to the Fanning Center?
So we're going through those conversations right now. So similarly, like we've talked about, hosting concerts that can be a revenue generator. We've looked at, and I think we used to have one about 10 years ago, was a PT clinic. And so we're kind of going through highest and best use of that square footage. We've also looked at maybe, utilizing it. It's a very big facility down there. So could we create more walk-through concessions as we continue to have sellouts in 𝗛𝗑𝗟𝗏𝗧? We know we're kind of confined in our space. And so we're looking at really, two major uses for that. One would be a potential brand new, would be the largest concession stand at 𝗛𝗑𝗏𝗧. You could come right down those stairs. The East Concourse is really tight. And we know as we continue to have larger crowds, how can we continue to enhance the fan amenities? So we're looking at potentially putting a walk-through concession stand and then partnering with, could be potentially Emory, could be somebody in town to have a PT clinic that would then be a revenue generator. It would also be able to have our athletes be able to access it. to be able to utilize the PT, which we're having to send them off campus at times. And so it could be more efficient for our athletes. It could be a revenue producer for us. We're looking for new passive ways, again, to be able to generate revenue to invest back into our programs to be competitive.
One project comes to an end, there is always another project set to begin. That's the life of college athletics. But really appreciate some of the insights and what you've shared across this edition of the Hell of a Podcast. And I guess the next time we'll record this, we might have to do this inside the Fanning Center.
That would be great.
I think that'd be great. Let's call it right now. Brian, we always appreciate the time, and thanks so much for another great edition of the Hell of a Podcast.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, he's Ryan Alpert. I'm Andy Demetra. Make sure you like, listen, subscribe, and sting 'em. And we'll talk to you next time on the Hell of a Podcast.